of the Joint Chiefs saying otherwise, now saying Iran did intend to kill personnel. President Trump tonight backing away from any military response to the missile attack, what he's now saying. And this evening, news coming in of explosions inside Baghdad's green zone. What we've learned on that front. Ian Pannell is in Iraq. Also breaking as we come on, the briefing on Capitol Hill on the intelligence that led to the deadly drone strike on the top Iranian general. The key Republican furious tonight, saying it was the worst briefing he's heard while serving in the Senate. The plane crash just hours after the missile attack from Iran, the Boeing passenger jet that went down minutes after takeoff in Tehran. 176 people killed. Was it catastrophic failure? Was it a bomb? Or was it Iran on heightened alert? The major winter storm from the south all the way up into the northeast, snow, ice, and freezing rain. Rob times it out. The urgent effort tonight, staggering toll now from the wildfires in Australia. Now 1 billion animals lost. Breaking news tonight on Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The royal stunner, what Prince Harry and Duchess Meghan have now revealed. The Queen hinting, not so fast. And the toddler, the little girl out on the ledge. Her mother, it's believed, was in the shower. Onlookers horrified. The child is okay, and what authorities are now saying tonight.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. It is great to have you with us here on a very busy Wednesday night. And we begin tonight with the U.S. and Iran appearing to back away at the edge of war after the Iranian missile strike on military bases housing the U.S. military in Iraq. Iranian state TV now showing some of the more than 20 missiles launched from Iran into Iraq. Many of them aimed at the Al-Assad air base in western Iraq. Satellite images tonight of the damage. And late today, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs saying Iran did intend to kill personnel, that was his opinion. But there was no loss of life. And tonight, President Trump telling the American people, quote, Iran appears to be standing down. No U.S. military response, but imposing harsh new sanctions. Will it end there? Also tonight, new reports of explosions inside Baghdad's green zone. What we have learned on that headline as well tonight. We begin with ABC senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell. He's in Iraq.
Tonight, new images capturing the chaos as Iranian missiles explode on a U.S. military base. Just some of the 15 that slammed into the Al-Assad site that's home to thousands of U.S. troops. Newly released satellite images revealing the scale of damage. This is what the base looked like only last month, and this is what it looks like now. The damage to structures clearly visible. A U.S. official confirming Iran firing nearly 24 ballistic missiles on at least 2 U.S. targets, but incredibly, no U.S. or Iraqi casualties. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff believes the goal of the strikes was to kill.
They were intended to cause structural damage, destroy vehicles and equipment and aircraft, and to kill personnel.
In the north today, security forces recovering shrapnel from what they say was an intercepted missile, but not all hit their targets. This one found in a field near the Syrian border. Iran had threatened to avenge the killing of its top general. State TV says the Ayatollah coordinated the attacks from a military control room. But more than an hour before the attack, the Iranians made a warning call to the Iraqis. And by the time those missiles landed, U.S. forces were safe in their bunkers.
No American or Iraqi lives were lost because of the precautions taken, the dispersal of forces, and an early warning system that worked very well.
Part of that warning system includes satellite technology that can spot missile launches in real time and alert military commanders within seconds.
So let's get right to Ian Pannell with us live tonight again from Iraq. And Ian, you know there has been a lot of talk about whether Iran intentionally missed targets, whether that was a tactical decision on their part.
Yes, I think many feel it's possible, not just in the lack of accuracy, but also the sites that were chosen, because there are many other bases the Iranians could have targeted to inflict mass casualties and maximum damage, but that would have forced a significant U.S. retaliation. However, the Pentagon doesn't see it like that. They're insisting this was an attack designed to kill American troops. David?
And Ian, as you know, there's also some breaking news out of Baghdad tonight. You're following explosions, a rocket attack near the U.S. Embassy?
Yeah, that's right. No injuries reported, but it shows that there are Iraqi militia groups still threatening retaliation. David?
Ian Pannell leading us off tonight from Iraq. Ian, thank you. The president speaking to the American people today, and tonight the White House releasing these new images of the president and his top national security advisors in the Situation Room last night after the Iranian attack. Late today, his staff briefing members of Congress about what led to the deadly drone strike that then caused Iran to retaliate. One angry Republican senator afterward calling it the worst briefing he's ever heard while serving in the Senate. Here's ABC's chief White House correspondent, Jonathan Karl.
The president stepped before the cameras today, flanked by the military leadership, and made his first comments about Iran's attack on U.S. facilities in Iraq. Now talking peace, not war.
Iran appears to be standing down, which is a good thing for all parties concerned and a very good thing for the world.
The president is standing down, too. After monitoring the attack last night in the Situation Room, the White House releasing these photos today, he decided he would not strike back at Iran. Instead, he called for economic sanctions and suggested what he really wants is negotiations with Iran's leaders.
We must all work together toward making a deal with Iran that makes the world a safer and more peaceful place.
Still, he defended his decision to order the strike that killed Qasem Soleimani last week.
In recent days, he was planning new attacks on American targets, but we stopped him.
But the White House still hasn't revealed to the American public any evidence Soleimani presented an imminent threat. Today, the president's national security team gave closed-door classified briefings to Congress. Democrats left thoroughly unconvinced, and one of the harshest reviews came from a Republican, Senator Mike Lee of Utah.
Probably the worst briefing I've seen, at least on a military issue, in the 9 years I've served in the United States Senate. One of the messages we received from the briefers was, do not debate, do not discuss the issue of the appropriateness of further military intervention against Iran. And that if you do, you'll be emboldening Iran. It's un-American, it's unconstitutional, and it's wrong.
Words from a Republican senator late today. John Karl live at the White House, and Senator Mike Lee says he's so angry that he'll now support a measure to limit the president's ability to wage war in Iran.
Yeah, both the House and the Senate are expected to soon vote on resolutions that would limit the president's ability to take military action on Iran without first getting congressional approval. It's unclear whether that would pass in the Republican-controlled Senate, and of course, even if it passed both chambers, David, it would almost certainly be vetoed by the president. All
right, John Karl with us from the White House again tonight. John, thank you. You heard President Trump saying we are ready to embrace peace when it comes to Iran. But how did the Iranians respond? ABC's chief global affairs correspondent, Martha Raddatz. She's been in Tehran for days now, and Martha with us live again tonight. And what are you hearing on the ground, Martha?
Well, David, tonight the threat of all-out war here certainly seems over for now. The foreign minister tweeting that Iran has concluded proportionate measures with its retaliatory strikes, adding that Iran does not seek escalation or war, but they are a long way from any sort of negotiations, as President Trump suggested. They simply don't trust him. And there is still fiery rhetoric coming from officials here on live TV today. Iran's supreme leader calling the Iranian missile strike a slap in the face delivered to America and calling for all U.S. troops to get out of the Mideast. So, David, while the heat may be turned way down, this standoff with Iran is far from over. David.
All right, Martha Raddatz in Tehran. Martha, thank you. We, of course, are also following the plane crash, the mystery, just hours after Iran fired those missiles, a Ukrainian passenger jet crashing minutes after takeoff at the airport in Tehran. Tonight, look at this. Pieces of the Boeing 737 strewn across acres of land, along with the remains of at least 176 people on board. No one survived. So far tonight, Iran is refusing to share the flight data recorders with the U.S. or with Boeing. Was it catastrophic failure? Was it a bomb? Was it Iran on heightened alert after those missiles? ABC's David Curley covers aviation for us.
Pieces of burning wreckage pierced Tehran's early morning darkness, the remains of the Ukrainian Boeing 737. With daylight, the grim awareness that none of the 176 on board survived. Body bags lining the side of a street. A child's notebooks found on the ground. More than a third of those on board, 63 people, Canadian citizens. It was soon after takeoff that the jet suddenly disappeared from radar.
The data stopped like that, you have to say it's something catastrophic.
It was less than 4 hours after Iran launched that barrage of missiles at American targets in Iraq that the Ukrainian jet was allowed to take off, an hour late. Just 2 minutes into the flight, the jet was climbing, less than 5,000 feet off the ground, 10 miles from the airport, and the data stops, the jet falling from the sky. What could cause such a catastrophic crash? A mechanical failure, a bomb, or a shoot-down, a theory getting attention because of the heightened tensions in Iran. Some are pointing to what appear to be shrapnel holes in the pictures of some of the wreckage, similar to what was found in the Malaysian Flight 17, which was shot down over Ukraine.
Right now, we don't have enough data to go one way or the other. Is a shoot down possible? Yes. Can I come up with mechanical failures that are possible? Yes. And right now, we just don't have the data.
The Iranians deny a shoot-down of the jetliner and say they have recovered the black boxes, which could have answers. But Iran will not provide those boxes to U.S. authorities or Boeing.
While they may not provide the boxes to the U.S., other parties are being invited to the investigation. So there's a chance the Ukrainians or the Canadians will share the data at some point. David, the question is, when?
David Curley tonight. David, our thanks to you as well. And to the other major news this Wednesday evening in Puerto Rico tonight, nearly 1 million in the dark after the deadly 6.4 earthquake. President Trump has now signed an emergency declaration tonight. Supplies are now being rushed in. Victor Oquendo is in Puerto Rico for us.
Tonight, new surveillance video shows a tremor hitting this convenience store after the largest quake in a century. A 6.4 rocked Puerto Rico. Businesses and hundreds of homes, schools and churches leveled. Terrified families cleaning up the damage and bracing for aftershocks.
This is one of several homes in this neighborhood that was destroyed. It was actually razed, and there is a crushed car underneath all the rubble.
Here, right here, everywhere.
In hard-hit Guanica, Jermaine Velez says he's afraid to go inside his crumbling bakery.
I went in like 2 times and started shaking.
We visited the command center for Puerto Rico's power company, a race to restore electricity to about 1 million customers.
It's crazy, man. There is a lot of people here working. Actually, we are working here 24/7.
Volunteers pitching tents, families sleeping outside, afraid to go home.
The goal is to have power restored to 90% of the island in the next 4 or 5 days, but there could be setbacks. The USGS warns we can expect even more aftershocks. David?
All right, Victor Oquendo in Puerto Rico. Victor, thank you. And next tonight, we are tracking a major storm that will slam the south all the way up through the northeast, major cities in the track. The system 1,700 miles long from Texas all the way up to Maine. Snow, sleet, freezing rain. So let's get right to meteorologist Rob Marciano tracking it all for us tonight. Hey, Rob.
Hi, Dave. We've got some big swings coming, starting with this cold that's pouring into the northeast. Snow squall still active on the radar, especially around the lakes, and the wind advisory continues. It's going to be slick and brisk in the morning, feeling like 15 in Philly, 10 in Boston, and those storms driving into the west will get across the Rockies tomorrow into the plains on Friday. Big time severe weather set up from Houston up to Little Rock. Tornadoes are a distinct possibility, then pushing through New Orleans and Birmingham during the day on Saturday. Could see a foot of snow on the backside of this. The warm sector is huge with flooding rain into the Ohio Valley, and that whole mess gets into the northeast on Sunday. David?
Rob Marciano will be tracking it. Thank you, Rob. Next to Australia tonight, firefighters are racing to save the wildlife amid those wildfires still raging. The staggering toll we've been reporting on here, now an estimated 1 billion animals lost. ABC's meteorologist Ginger Zee is still in the fire zone for us tonight.
Tonight, as firefighters in Australia battle flames that have scorched 15 million acres, an ecological emergency is unfolding. That terrifying estimate that more than 1 billion animals have now been lost. Australia's wild animals desperate for water. Now, volunteers are stepping up any way they can.
You can tell she's very stressed.
An ecologist treating these baby wallabies in her home.
You're right.
These teens filling their truck with koalas that they found where their family's home once stood. Veterinarians from the Australian Army treating many of them at this wildlife hospital.
What we're finding is that there's often these isolated populations, and so if a fire does move through that, instead of taking a few from a large gene pool, it unfortunately can take out an entire population.
We have seen plenty of surviving animals inside these burnt-out forests that flank the entire drive down to Sydney. But here's the problem. Just like the people that live in the areas that have not yet burnt, there are animals that will be susceptible too when conditions deteriorate again on Friday. David?
Those images so difficult. Ginger Zee, our thanks to you again tonight. And there is still much more ahead on World News Tonight this way.